I have filled 7 sketchbooks so far and nothing beats the magical feeling of starting a fresh new one. So in this video, I'll be drawing on the first page and also customizing the cover to make this my most aesthetic sketchbook yet. But first we need to unbox it and see what's inside. Honestly, I was so excited for this package to arrive because now it's finally here and I can start drawing again. This is the Ohuhu Spiral sketchbook and it's all wrapped up, so I just know the pages are going to be perfect. I've used this sketchbook twice already and it is my favorite for drawing with markers. However, if I'm being honest, this cover is really not my style, so we're going to give it a crazy glow up, and to do that I need to start off by painting it with a white base coat. I used acrylic paint to do this, and this was such a fun and stress-free way to start off the process, and it was actually kind of satisfying to do. Although I will say that it took me absolutely ages to cover everything, and I had to do quite a few layers before it looked half decent, and even then it was still a little bit transparent. Let's leave that to dry and I'll continue painting it after I get started on the first page, which is going to be a little welcome page to welcome you guys into the sketchbook. I thought I'd start off strong and draw a character who's actually got a cool pose and isn't just floating on the page with their hands by their sides. I didn't have any grand plans for this page. I thought I'd just go with the flow, and once I'd finished this pose I realised that I have a character who is the perfect fit for this. If you watch my 7th sketchbook tour, you'll definitely recognise this character. She is a crazy clown queen, but I'm struggling to pick a real name for her. I love this drawing a lot, but she actually originated from this drawing, which I did even longer ago, and today I'm going to give her a bit more power by placing her as the main character in this welcome page. She is a villain as well, so I think it's kind of funny to have her welcoming you inside. I tried to give her a crazy expression, but not gonna lie, I didn't try hard enough and I just made her look like an absolute cutie pie. But of course there is a lot more to this page than just our crazy queens, so since this is a welcome page, I'm using up all the extra space to add in my welcome, so it just says welcome to Minty's 9th sketchbook. Wait, I've only done 7, so how can this be my 9th? Well, basically I just made a silly mistake, but don't worry, I did luckily notice it during the sketch phase, and all I had to do was rub it out and change it to an 8. Her hands are in this sort of evil laughing pose, so I thought why not make use of that, and I added in some floating dice just to add a bit more interest to her character. She's looking good so far, but I can't forget her floating crown, so let's quickly add that in, and then she's pretty much done. Here is how the sketch is looking. We've got our character and we've got our welcoming words all done. Now the next step is just to colour her in, but first let's head back to painting the cover. I'm going to be using my most favourite colour combination, which is pink and yellow, but we need to mix it first because I want it to be pastel. Okay, now see this sponge? I'm using a very different technique today and I'm not sure how well it's going to go, but the idea is that it will help me to blend more easily because, as I learnt from the white base coat, using a paintbrush can make it look super streaky and I do not want that. I want everything to be super soft and blended. I was getting a bit nervous because I had a vision and it was taking a very long time to look like my vision, but all I needed was some patience because after lots of dabbing with the sponge, I started to get the sunset sky effect, which is exactly what I want. Leaving all that paint to dry, we are back to drawing again, and I am so excited to colour this character because she is really vibrant and fun. It wasn't all easy though because I encountered a problem straight away. I grabbed these pale Copic markers because these are the original markers that I used for her skin tone when I first made her, but they are actually almost fully dried up, but it was too late to switch them, so I just had to do a lot of layering and it ended up okay. I added loads of details around the eyes to try and help that crazy look really come to life, and I also kept her eyelashes very long and very spiky to represent that villain aspect. She has a scar on her face, and I believe when I last drew her this was actually unintentional and it was a complete mistake where I accidentally smudged some of my pink line art, but I decided to turn it into a scar and I think it adds so much interest to her character. Although I made it super bright this time, so it's almost looking more like an open wound than a scar, which is not what I was going for, but it's fine. I love the detail on her face so much, but what I love even more is colouring the hair. I enjoy colouring hair already, but this girl has the craziest hair that I've ever drawn. It has 4 different colours, pink, purple, blue and green, and it is perfect for creating that chaotic vibe to really bring her to life. But since it's so chaotic, it can be really tricky to colour multicoloured hair, especially because I want it to look natural and not super chunky or streaky. My method for this is starting off with the lightest version of each colour and then gradually shading shading it and building it up, and after that, basically any mistakes or anything you don't like can be covered up with line art, and that's exactly what I did. I used all the different colours for the line art, and this really helped it look like hair. I think if I had used black, it would have been a lot more harsh, so this works perfectly. And then it's time for the highlights, which as always, I used my white Posca and gently added them on. Now, this drawing is far from complete, but I couldn't resist adding a close-up so you can really see all the fine details of her hair and her face, and clearly I'm really happy with how this process is going. So, surprise! We are back to the sketchbook, and don't worry guys, you will see how our welcome page turns out, but I had to show you guys the process of adding the design onto the cover. It looks so simple, but I had to be really careful with the lettering. I copied the font off of a website called The Font and just wrote Sketchbook in the center. I used my white Posca pen and also white paint because the Poscas were really struggling over the top of the acrylic. I'm so surprised I managed to get the words in the center because I did not measure it or anything, so I guess I got lucky with that. And once I'd written it, I surrounded it with a bunch of cute details. We've got 2 hearts and a bunch of dots and doodles, and then I went in with the white and also pink and added loads of stars and sparkles over the entire cover. Keeping it simple is honestly the biggest challenge for me because if you know me, you know I always end up overworking my art and adding way too many details, but since the cover was looking so cute, I made sure to be really careful because I did not want to ruin this. Customizing your sketchbook can be really scary because you're going to be seeing that cover for the next months or years, and I don't mean to scare you, but that's why this is only my second time customizing a sketchbook. But I am so proud of how it's turning out so far. I added shading to the letters using my Prismacolor pencils, and this really helped those details to pop out against the background. You may notice that it kind of looks done, but see all that messy white paint on the spiral? Yeah, that's gotta go, but we can fix that later. I also have a few other finishing touches in mind, but I want to finish this welcome page once and for all, so let's get going with colouring the outfit. I mentioned that she is a crazy clown queen, and I guess she's not that clown inspired, but it's more of like a circusy vibe. I feel like there has to be a name for that aesthetic, but I am not sure what it is, so I'm just going with clown. Her dress also has some magical girl elements to it, especially with the gold detailing, and I think that also makes her look more royal. Although I feel like this time around I made her look less like a queen and more like a princess because I kept her dress colours very pastel when I think they could have been a bit more brighter and more in your face. While I colour the rest of her, I just want to have a chat about starting a new sketchbook and fear of the first page and all that. I used to always leave the first page blank and then come back to it later on because I seriously felt like the first page had to be really perfect and I was so scared to touch it. Your first page does not have to be perfect at all. That is so not true, and I know I'm putting a lot of effort into my first page now, but that's just because it's something I've grown to be excited about and I love to make videos about it, and I'm also a lot less worried now about making mistakes because I know there's always a way to fix them. But if you do just really get nervous about the first page, just know that the first page could be your worst page, but so what? A sketchbook is for you to draw in and have fun, and it's a lot more fun to see your progression. So if the first page is the worst one, all you're going to do is see yourself progress as you get through the sketchbook, and I think that's something so exciting to look forward to. And as for customizing the cover, as I said, I really don't do this often. I've only done it once before this video. Usually I leave it as it was when I first got it, but I think another fun idea is to add a bunch of stickers on the front because that is such a stress-free way to do it, and you don't have to worry about messing it up because it's just a really fun thing to do, and sometimes messy stickers can look really cool. I kind of wish I could pull off that effortlessly messy look, but I've never really been able to get it down. And additionally, I do not have any stickers of my own at the moment, but if you have any which you haven't really used, I know some people get a fear of using their stickers because they think they're so cute and they don't know what to do with them, they don't want to waste them. I think putting them on your cover is such a good way to use them. This next part of the drawing is more simple because we are not colouring a person anymore, we are colouring the Earth, or at least some sort of planet, because I can tell you for a fact this is not geographically accurate at all, and I completely winged it when it came to drawing out the continents. So yes, she is sitting on a planet, but no, she is not a giant space creature. I just thought it would be cool in the sense that she's taking over the world. I haven't figured out her storyline, and realistically, she will not be taking over the world at all because that is so cliche, but it's a cool concept to draw out, and I think it looks pretty fun. I love how it looks, but she is very shiny because I went so crazy with the highlights, which is definitely a habit of mine now, and I don't know if it looks good or bad, so maybe you guys could let me know. The hard part is done, so now I can relax and colour in the letters. I stuck with the same colours, pink, green, purple and blue, and also the chaotic vibe for the massive welcome at the top, and it was nice to do something more simple where I don't have any tiny details to worry about. As I said, I can just relax. It still looks like there is loads and loads of blank space, but you will see how I sort that out later. At the minute, I'm just focusing on making the words look bright and fun. The welcome was really easy to do. I just copied the vibe of the character character and made it into a font. But then I was a bit lost with what to do for the part underneath, which says 2 minties. As it's really small, bubble letters were not going to work. So I just winged it, I went with the flow and ended up trying out this neon font. And I don't know if it actually looks like a neon sign because that's what I was going for, but it does look cute, so that's fine. I'm not a big background fan, and I know this isn't a real background, it's just some fancy writing, but even though it was really quick to do, it felt like it took ages. Because honestly, I have so much more fun when I'm drawing a character, and this felt a little bit boring to me, but I committed to it, and I am glad that I did. I then filled in some of the blank space underneath by writing out my goals for this sketchbook, and I had so many in mind, but I didn't want to put too much pressure, so I limited myself to just 3 goals. Goal number 1 is to draw more dynamic poses, which is something that I'm always raving about, but never actually doing. I tried it today, I guess. This pose is something a bit more exciting, but it's still stiff, so I would not go so far as to say it's dynamic. The second goal is to not rip out any pages. This isn't a huge problem for me usually, but in my last sketchbook, I had a lot of art block and I ripped out a few more pages than I would have liked to. And the third goal is to draw more often. I think most of you would know that in the past 2 years, I have not been drawing very much, considering when I was younger, I used to draw every single day. Obviously, I'm a lot more busy now, but I'd like to still make time for drawing because it is the thing that I love the most. I should have finished my page here, but in the final reveal, you'll see that I added quite a bit more to it. Before we see the final result, this sketchbook needs some final touch-ups, and the first thing that I'm doing is adding a glaze to make it look a lot more shiny and finished, and also to protect the paint from getting scratched off or dirty. And then I coloured the spiral black again since I got it all messy with the white paint. So this is the final transformation. You can see how the sketchbook looked before and how it looks now. It is a massive difference and I absolutely love how it turned out. I'm so much more excited to draw in this sketchbook now as I love how it looks, and the first page was also a success. Although if you spot the difference between this final result and what you guys last saw, this version is a bit overworked. Basically I added a bunch of squiggles over the top of the checkerboard pattern and I kind of wish I kept it as it was. It's a little bit discombobulating to look at now, and I think the simple background was a lot more effective, but oh well, mistakes happened and I'm going to try to learn from this experience. Overall, I still really love how it looks and it's fun to see how the character has developed. Not much has changed, to be honest. The only thing is that I actually gave her some shoes because usually I do not draw full bodies. Even then I only drew 1 shoe. I think I like the second version best, but this wasn't really about the character, it's more about the welcome page as a whole. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you watched till the end, I'm so thankful, and I hope you enjoyed both the sketchbook cover transformation and the first page process. If there's anything you want to see in the next video, let me know.